8:10 is the morning time on this, the 7th day of July 2021. It's Wednesday. It's July 7, 2021. It is day number 188 in the year 2021, which means there are 177 days left in the year to make it great. Into the second half of the year, 51.23% of the year has come and gone. Week number 27. Good morning to you wherever you are, the north, south, east or west. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Heng for this Wednesday morning. And an overcast morning earlier looks to be turning out to be a bright, sunshiny day. Again, I'm no weatherman. I'm just saying what I think. When I look up in the sky, there are people trained, educated to do the job of predicting the weather. So you listen to them for your accurate and up-to-date information. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let me begin by offering condolences to the family of the late Patrick Roland John, Dominica's first Prime Minister. Mr. John passed away yesterday at the age of 83.
84.
Yes.
Yeah. Passed away at the ripe old age of 84 yesterday, just about 11 o'clock yesterday morning. And it was really sad to learn of his passing. As you know, it is always when you hear of the passing of someone. Patrick John, who served Dominica in many capacities. He was not only a politician, but he was also involved in the art form. He was also involved in music. He wrote many a calypso. He was master of ceremonies at many a calypso competition, whatever it is. He was an ardent football player. I saw a little bit of him, playing football, and he really, you talk about Coco Shoe, he was a real wizard on the field of football. He was a wicket keeper. He was a past master at the St. Mary's Academy. He was a deacon in the Anglican Church. He was the founding member of the Waterfront and Allied Workers Union. He was the youngest mayor of the city of Roseau. And, of course, we know of his prowess in football in the administrative capacity. He served Dominica very well. And in many areas. The only thing I didn't know Patrick to be doing or to have done was farming. That's the only thing. But I think he revered as a fisherman. He, did a little bit of fishing in his younger days. He was involved, very much involved. It was under his stewardship and leadership that Dominica enacted the legislation for the setting up of the National Sports Council for Dominica, Act 3050 of the laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica. So Patrick did quite a bit for Dominica. And Brain, I know you were very close to him. You served with him. And you were secretary of the Dominica Football Association when he was president of the Dominica Football Association.
I served with him for a number of years as his Gen Sec. In fact, he succeeded Jeff Scotland as the president of the Dominica Football Association. And I was then the secretary, so I continued serving with him up to the point just before we got into FIFA. And we were very, very close friends, very, very close friends. I visited him on a number of occasions at his home. We talked, we laughed, we had quite a bit of jokes, when back in the past. So I knew him when he served as president of the Dominica Football Association.
And he was a very jovial person.
Great fun to be with. I would know sometimes I would just go up to the football house and we'd just have a great joke, and I laughed with him, and we had great. Even when I went to see him, even in his sickness, we laughed a lot. He recognized me. His brain was still very active, man. When we had great times. I also knew him as a footballer. I went to see him. He played for Combomere under the leadership of Thomas Baptist, the late his captain. He and his goalkeeper was Johnson Isaac. So I knew him quite well. So it's a very sad day for me. But
I don't know if you remember the joke about his football days when he was swept under the stands at Windsor Park, and everybody said, well, Patrick was dead. And he came from under the stands and just brushed his
do you know who
uniform
threw him
off.
under the stand?
Tom
Webb.
I was told.
Tom
I
Webb.
was told
But he was a muscle
He
man.
was a muscle man. And
He
Tom
played for
Webb decided,
he played for Dumford Rovers.
and Tom Webb decided, no,
I'm going to put that charge on you.
This little man, I'll do something.
And he went under the stand. It was great to see those
under the
guys,
stand.
man.
Yeah.
It was great to see, man. So
those guys had great fun.
great fun. If we have to go
Tom
for the whole day, we'd go. We'd go for the whole
Mr.
day.
Philip Aline, deceased,
Yeah, we had great fun. Great fun. We go for the whole day.
Patrick John was 83 years old. He was born in 1938.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. And as such, he was 83 years old.
Okay.
All right. Good. But you heard from the Prime Minister, and we'll play the statement of the Prime Minister in a little while, that the government will accord him some ceremonies for his final day, his mortal body's final day up above ground. So we'll hear what happens. I think the government will announce their decisions within the coming time. Flags at one point will be flown at half staff, and we will await the decision on what type of funeral will be accorded to the late Patrick John. Again, he carried many caps. He carried the caps. The youngest mayor of Roseau, you mentioned, was a school teacher, trade unionist, sportsman, premier, prime minister, minister of several portfolios at certain points. Later on into football, he had some controversial activities during his lifetime as well, which I don't think it's necessary to speak about today. But in a little while, we'll probably open up the lines for a few minutes to allow for some condolences to continue for the late Patrick John. He was also the manager of the Solid Waste Corporation at one point as well. He was an election candidate up to 1995, okay, when he contested the Roseau North seat. And football, stayed in football.
He contested in both the Roseau North seat and was one of the few politicians to even contest outside his jurisdiction. He contested the St. Joseph seat. And
in 1995, he contested the Roseau North.
That's correct.
Okay, good. Listen, you're a teacher. That's what I said. In 1995, he contested the Roseau North seat.
I agreed with you.
Yes, good. Okay, good. So, as the leader of the Labour Party, I think his most significant achievement in life was leading Dominica to political independence. I think that was his most significant achievement, and that is what he will be remembered for. Patrick Roland John, dead at the age of 83, and may his soul rest in peace.
Yeah. Well, just to continue a little bit, Joe, I know during the tough times you stood with him.
I was always there.
You've been ready for a very long time.
You see, I was as I always tell people, I was indoctrinated into the Dominican Labour Party by the late Mr. Edward Oliver LeBlanc. He sat down with me and really scolded me about the Dominican Labour Party. And from the days of Edward Oliver LeBlanc to the days of Patrick John, I never really floundered when it came to the Dominican Labour Party. I always stood there. And Patrick, during my time being very close to him, I learned a lot from him. There are lots of things that he taught me about life and about politics in Dominique and about the way, things went and so on. We went separate ways when he let me not get into that because but then he was really someone that you could have a conversation.
and yes, very nice conversation.
Have a joke.
Have a
with,
joke. Yes.
Have a good drink with.
Oh yes, man.
You know what I mean?
Let the waters flow, man.
And eat a good food as well. You know what I mean? And you reminded me that I played cricket with him in his latter days up at the Morn, at his home in the Morn, when guys gathered there sometimes would have played a game of cricket and so on. It was great fun.
Oh, man, after the game, man,
Great,
waters would
great.
flow, man.
Great fun.
great fun. Yes.
Let us play for you the statement by Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit on the death of Patrick John.
It is with sadness that I've learned of the passing of our first Prime Minister, Patrick Roland John, better known as PJ. I therefore wish, on behalf of the government and people of Dominica, and on my own behalf and that my family, to extend our sincere condolences to his wife and his children on their loss. One can say whatever they want about Patrick John, but we cannot erase the fact that he made a tremendous contribution to Dominica's development. There are a number of interventions that he would have done in his tenure as Premier and Prime Minister of Dominica. Being in political life is a huge challenge. Oftentimes, the gratitude are not displayed or extended by our citizens. I am sure Patrick John, our former Prime Minister, deceased Prime Minister now, would have experienced this. He was also, at one point, the leader of the Dominican Labour Party, and his contribution to that party will always remain as part of our history, and we're really saddened by his death. We know that he has not been well for some time, but he's been known in sports, in particular football. He really has made his contribution, and so may his soul rest in peace. And certainly the government of Dominica will be responsible for his burial and the associated aspects of this, and at some point we will also have the flag flown at half-staff. Again, I wish to extend our condolences to his wife, his children, and of course to all of us in the country, our condolences, and may his soul rest in peace.
Statement by the Honorable Prime Minister on the passing of Patrick Roland John, the former Prime Minister of Dominica, the first Prime Minister of Dominica, 1938, January 7, 1938 to July 6, 2021. Patrick Roland John was Prime Minister, parliamentarian, mayor, trade unionist, teacher, sportsman. He was born in Roseau on January 7, 1938, educated at the Roseau Boys School and at the St. Mary's Academy, where he later taught for 4 years. He worked as a shipping clerk at H.H.B. Whitchurch and Company before leaving to organize the Waterfront and Allied Workers Union. He was elected to the Roseau Town Council and served as mayor from 1965. In 1970, he contested the general elections as a member of the Dominica Labour Party and won the Roseau North seat, serving in the Leblanc government at different times, holding several portfolios, including Minister of Communications and Works, Home Affairs, Agriculture, and Finance. In 1974, he took over the leadership of the DLP from E.O. Leblanc and prepared the party with a new, younger look for the general elections of 1975. This he won by a landslide, winning 16 of the 21 seats in the House of Assembly. He became Premier, and in the following year, in Salisbury, he issued what was known as the Salisbury Declaration, preparing Dominica for negotiations towards full independence. He led the delegation that attended preliminary meetings with the British government and the Constitutional Conference in London in March and May of 1977. Political independence was achieved on November 3, 1978, and he became the first Prime Minister of Dominica. He received several honors in his lifetime, including Venezuela's highest honor, but importantly, the Dominica's highest honor, the Dominica Award of Honor. Okay? Mr. John would hold on to office until June 1979. And we all know of the various upheavals that took place during his term as Prime Minister, short as it was. Later on in life, he would become a deacon in the Anglican Church, and he would go on to become the president of the Dominica Football Association, and he would also be very, very influential in regional football organizations alongside his friend Jack Warner, Austin Jack Warner. So this is a short biography of the late Patrick Roland John, Dominica's first Prime Minister, and he led Dominica between 1975 or 1974 to 1979, and during that time he took Dominica to political independence from Great Britain, first serving as Premier, and after political independence, serving as Prime Minister. We can open up the lines a little bit. Let us share some condolences. I'm sure there are quite a few people who would like to call in to share condolences on the death of Patrick Roland John. 448-7334 305-906-6186. So we can open up the lines and just a few condolences, or take in a few condolence messages for the late Patrick Roland John. On the telephone, good morning.
Good morning, Daryl.
Good morning, sir.
Is Jyoti and Brett there?
Yes.
Oh, yes,
Jyoti and Brain are here.
Okay, Brett, Sakafet, come.
Well, comrade.
Okay. I would like to send condolences to the family of Mr. John. He was my teacher at the St. Mary's Academy. In fact, he taught me geography and Latin and also gymnastics. I could be called one of his favorite pupils because at that time he lived in Hillsborough Street and I was a favorite at his home. I wish them well and I ask God to bless the family and keep them strong in the moment of grief.
Thank you. Thank you for that this morning. On the overseas line, good morning.
Good morning, Nigel. And I don't know if Breen and Thomas is there with you.
My name is Daryl, sir, not Nigel. I don't know where you got that.
Daryl.
Yes.
Daryl.
Okay.
The brain is there.
I think of Nigel Lawrence, man.
The brain is here, man. Pick.
Go ahead. Yes.
Okay, I'm Michael Pecolibla, and I want to say good day, good morning to all Dominicans, the Prime Minister's government and family. I've been at the time, as a young boy in the Dominica Labour Party, as a young Labourite. I know Patrick John in sports. He was playing for Combermere. Then he formed the team, Combermere breakout from Celtic breakout from Combermere, and then he formed Paragons. Anyway, as the former president of Dominica Football Association, that's before Patrick, just before, and then being the vice president of the Dominica Football Association at the time when Patrick was there and went into FIFA and so on. I give my sincere condolences to the family on behalf of my wife, family, and myself, hoping that they recover from the death and wishing his wife Desiree a speedy recovery. And I send all my love to them.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that here this morning. On the local line, good morning.
Yes, good morning. I want to extend my profound sadness at the loss of Patrick Roland John. As you know, Patrick Roland John was the first Prime Minister and I worked with him in the 78. In fact, when he lived at Monbrose, we had a police team, and it was named the Patrick John 11. We would play softball in his yard. He would give us his coffee, and he was very nice. Of course, he was on the right trajectory before things happened to him, but certainly he will be missed and he'll be long remembered, especially for his sporting prowess and his leadership. So I want to say I'm very sad to learn of his death, and I can only hope that the family will be comforted. Thank you very much, and good morning.
Thank you very much for that. On the overseas line, good morning.
Good morning, Daryl.
Good morning.
Togo and the other guys. I would like to express my sympathy to the Jones family. And a question I'd love to ask Togo and the other guy, because they look much older than you.
Sogo is not there. Sogo is not there.
Okay.
Jyoti.
Jyoti, yeah. And they are much older than you. You will not know about that. I would love to ask them, what was Assembly 78 all about? Because I was a little child, about 9 years old, and it was all about Assembly 78. They had these stickers, and we had one on our chalkboard in the school, in the corner of the chalkboard. And I was too small to really know what was Assembly 78. So I would like him to tell me what was Assembly 78 if he knows. Thank you.
All right. I'll seek to get that information for you. I myself, first time I'm hearing of this statement, Assembly 78. First time I'm hearing of this statement. 8:31 is the morning time. In the days and I guess weeks to come, we will have, of course, more details as to the final send-off for the late Patrick Roland John, affectionately known as PJ. Okay? Affectionately known as PJ. So we will have more information on the send-off and what have you, the form it will take, and of course the day and what that sort of thing. So we will give you more, and hopefully we'll be able to speak to a few more people as it relates to Patrick John. Hopefully Sogo Fly is someone that can give us a lot of insight into the late Patrick Roland John. We'll try to get something from him, probably something from the likes of Dennis Joseph, probably O.J. Serafin himself and others. Will be able to speak with them and bring you more details on the life of Patrick Roland John. And it was just on Sunday I was saying to some people that before he goes, that they should try to speak with him, because there's a program they host speaking about events of 1979, and alas, it is not going to be possible to speak with him as he has gone on to the great beyond, as we all will one day, sooner or later.
But he has written his memoirs. He did not publish it during his lifetime, but that will be published. I know about that.
You have a copy?
No, nobody has the copy. He didn't know where the copy is.
Okay.
So the copy will be published about his life.
All right. Well, let's see what goes on. I will be very interested in reading that. We also heard the news of the assassination of the president of Haiti. Jovenel Moïse was his name.
Yes, Moïse.
And assassinated at his private residence sometime overnight, and plunging Haiti into further political chaos that it already was in. Any assassination of a sitting head of state should be condemned in all possible ways. We heard the Prime Minister this morning on the DBS News speaking with Curtis Matthew about this. Haiti is a part of CARICOM. Haiti is very close to Dominica, indeed, in that there are a number of our brothers and sisters from Haiti who have made Dominica their home. So I am hoping that the perpetrators can be brought to justice soon, and also some level of stability is restored in that beautiful country very quickly. Haiti, throughout the years, since leading the Western Hemisphere in the abolition of slavery and seeking to stand on its own, it has been one calamity after another for that country. And I am hoping that one day this country will be able to get out of this quagmire that it always seems to find itself in, whether it's political unrest or the effects of natural disasters, there always seems to be something going on over there that dwarfs the country's development. And I'm hoping that some level of stability comes out of this latest calamity that has transpired in Haiti there. So I'm hoping that, something happens, but I want to offer condolences to our Haitian brothers and sisters who are on island, and I want to urge them to hold strong in times like this. Trust in the good Lord, and He will see you through these difficult times.
Yeah. Well, as you said, Daryl, that assassinations of head of states, it's not my favorite thing. There's a ballot, you go through there. I mean, to overthrow a government or to assassinate a sitting leader, it's terrible. So I hope when CARICOM meets, they will certainly meet. In fact, I heard the Prime Minister said they were discussing Haiti early on this week.
Their 2-day meeting concluded yesterday. The heads of
Haiti.
government meeting concluded yesterday. And Haiti was, of course, a topic of discussion.
Because of the political unrest that's there. And so I wait to see what CARICOM, what decision they'll take in terms of, trying to stabilize the country, because the country is very unstable. And I look forward to hearing the communique that they will issue after the discussions that they'll be having.
Yes. So the report is that Haiti's president, Jovenel Moïse, has been killed in an attack on his private residence, according to a statement by Interim Prime Minister Claude Joseph. Mr. Joseph said the president's residence in Port-au-Prince was stormed by unidentified armed men at around 1 a.m. local time. The First Lady was reported to have been injured in the attack. Mr. Joseph said that all measures had been taken to guarantee the continuance of state. Mr. Moïse was 53 years old and had been president since 2017 after taking over from Michel Sweetmiki Matili. Mr. Moïse's time in office was very rocky, and he faced accusations of corruption and was challenged by waves of often violent anti-government protests. Okay, so this is the report there from the BBC. Read the death of the president of Haiti. Okay, good. In other news, the people of St. Lucia go to the polls on July 26. That is about 21 days away. July 26, the people of St. Lucia go to the polls. Nomination day is July 16. Very, very, very interesting developments in St. Lucia, including the possibility of a former prime minister and sitting government minister contesting a seat for the opposition.
Wow. Very interesting.
But we'll see how that goes. I like regional politics, so I always pay attention to elections in countries within CARICOM. So I will see. We sit back and we watch. We do not interfere in the people's internal affairs. They will decide who they want to lead their country. We can only sit back. Even if we take sides, the final decision is not up to us. It is the people of St. Lucia. Okay? So they will decide on the governance of the country. But it's always interesting to look at these elections and just watch what happens in those countries other than ours. Okay?
Right, because they are next door neighbors. Not only that,
yes, St. Lucia is almost like
part
a
of the OECS
country
is
to,
a sister
to
country
Dominica.
to Dominica.
It's almost, yeah.
So I mean, we look with great interest
Yes.
as to the development, political development in the island.
Yes. So let's see what happens.
I don't know. For instance, there always a discussion as to who is in the lead or who's not in the lead.
Well,
Discussions, will he be replaced?
I
will he not be replaced?
prefer let the people release their polls. I saw some polls, so it's interesting.
What are the polls saying? I mean,
again, I
the
saw
polls-
this just because I was
we had
able
all
to
kind
see
of
it.
polls here in Dominica.
Yeah, well, no, credible polls. Credible polls.
Are they the
Come on,
Carlstone
man.
type of
No,
polls?
no, no, no,
Not the type we had here.
credible polls, not no greasy poll partner that fellas declaring themselves certain profession and just coming on the local line. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Teeth.
Good
How are you
morning,
this
Auntie.
morning?
I'm
morning.
good. I'm good.
Okay.
How are you? You okay?
Good morning.
Good morning,
Yeah,
Good morning, Auntie.
Joe, good morning.
Good morning.
Soko, wherever you are, good morning. Anyway, Mr. Teeth, I would like to call, I'm calling on behalf of my mom to say condolences to the Patrick John family, especially his wife and his kids. Because I would like to tell her, take heart, God is in control. In spite of it all, God is in the mix. And may his soul rest in peace. Daryl, this man, my mother believed, she always believed, she never give up on this man, Patrick Jones. My mother was one that believed in that man. If her head was okay now, I believe she'll be crying. Because even when he won the St. Joe seat, when he go for St. Joe, he won. I tell you, my mother alone making Canada in Christian. She and my cousin, the late Susanna Edwards. Two persons I know that believe in this man was these two. And if her head was good, she'll be crying. I can tell you that. She never believed he does no wrong, you know. She always says, right there, on him. Anyway, it is another sad day in this land.
Yes,
Anyway.
indeed. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Auntie. Thank you for your contribution here this morning. So, a lot of things going on. I want to play for you a statement by the Minister for Education, Human Resource Planning, Vocational Training and National Excellence on the exercise to create new positions within the teaching service. So I want to play that for you now, and then we can discuss this, and then we can get into the heat of our discussion here this morning. We'll play this after we take this call on the local line. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Daryl. Good morning to you, Brain,
Good morning.
and to Mr. Thomas.
The good Oprah.
Yes. Daryl, as the PRO of the St. Joseph branch of the Dominica Labour Party, we would like to extend our deepest sympathy to the family of Mr. Patrick Roland John. As all of Dominicans know that Patrick John was the former parliamentary representative for the St. Joseph constituency. That's, I think, between 1985 it is. Yeah, I think somewhere there. And, you know, he was, that was one of a man that I myself, Daryl, as growing up in St. Joseph, whenever he come to a public meeting, I would stand up and listen to Patrick John. The short man stood up on my Isaiah porch there talking. You know, I would listen to Patrick John carefully. I always loved Patrick Roland John, you know. I always, he was just, as Ting said earlier on, his mother never believed that he's wrong. I never believed that myself, neither, as a young man growing up. So let me just extend our deepest sympathy on the behalf of our Labour Party branch in St. Joseph, as the PRO I said earlier on, to all his family and friends. I will have a good day.
You have a good day as well. Let me play now for you the statement from Honorable Octavia Alfred, the Minister for Education, Human Resource Planning, Vocational Training, and National Excellence.
Additional responsibility. Today, July 6, 2021, the Cabinet of Ministers approved a new structure for the teaching service within government secondary schools. The 2019-2020 Budget of Recovery, Modernization and Transformation proposed a new structure for the teaching service and mandated the Ministry of Education to come up with more progressive structures that would address the numerous complaints and support the professionalism, output, security, career development, and upward mobility of these services. The current school-level organization structure lacks a clear career path and provides limited opportunities for middle management. It is within this context that the restructuring of school-level supervision was proposed. The structure is premised on the need to maximize the use of existing human resource while providing an acceptable structure for staff mobility. Most of the new positions within the school system at the middle and senior management levels are required to strengthen school leadership and accountability and to foster efficiency within the education system. The proposed organizational structure includes new and upgraded positions for secondary schools and will include the following categories as articulated by the Honorable Prime Minister: Principal, Deputy Principal, Assistant Principal, Heads of Department, Senior Graduate Teacher, Senior Qualified Teacher, School Counselor. This structure emphasizes the importance of the functions of officers at various levels, as well as maximizing the skills of staff in areas where they can perform best. In addition to promoting professional growth, the structure provides opportunities for teachers to advance in responsibility and compensation, while also allowing them to make significant contributions within the school system without having to give up teaching functions. These additional responsibilities include areas of curriculum development, supervision, monitoring, mentoring new teachers within their school and staff training, student discipline, or serving as lead teachers in selected subject areas. Cabinet has therefore approved the following: the upgrade of 7 positions of principals of secondary schools, the creation of the following new positions for government secondary schools: 15 deputy principals, 7 assistant principals, 87 heads of department, 28 senior graduate teachers, 70 senior qualified teachers, and 16 school counselors. As a result of the creation of these new positions, Cabinet has also approved an increase in the budgetary allocation for salaries to the Ministry of Education in the amount of $1,296,873.84 annually. In keeping with the new collective bargaining agreement between the Dominica Association of Teachers and the Government of Dominica, this new structure will be implemented with effect from September 1, 2021. These new positions will be filled from the existing pool of teachers within the teaching service. In addition to providing upward mobility for over 200 teachers, the promotion of teachers will create vacancies at the graduate and qualified teachers level to allow for permanent employment of teachers who are currently temporarily employed or on program requirements. This decision reflects this government commitment to provide a better deal to our teachers and create a public service that promotes professional growth and is part of the ongoing comprehensive organizational review and reclassification of the public service of Dominica. Additionally, we have maintained our commitment to the permanent employment within the teaching service at all levels. In the last few weeks, the Public Service Commission has approved the appointment of 12 principals, and within the last year, the Commission has approved the permanent appointment of 60 teachers. Let me take this opportunity to thank all our dedicated teachers and principals throughout the school system, and I urge you to continue to promote excellence and give your best at all times. This government understands your challenges, and we continue to work in your best interest. God bless you. Jesus loves you, and I love you too. Thank you.
The Minister for Education, Human Resource Development, Vocational Training and National Excellence, Honorable Octavia Alfred, speaking in detail about the several new positions that are being created within the teaching service to take effect from September 2021. Mr. Adams.
I knew, look to me, Daryl, that's my game, education. I'm very happy to see that there is going to be a level of upward mobility, not going to be. It is already happening. and by September, everything should be in place for these new positions. It gives the teachers a chance to be able to rise within the system, because as you know, within the
Upward mobility.
within the education system, the structures at the time were very limited in terms of administrative positions. And so when you're creating staffing, people sometimes say, boy, I can never be a principal, because if you have 15 secondary schools, that's 15 principals. And some of the schools don't have deputies. So if you become a deputy,
you heard from the Prime Minister, the position of deputy was just a thing,
A thing.
Yeah,
it's a myth.
Yeah, it was just a name. There was no
myth.
There was no, what they call that. There was
no financial reward.
Not even that. There was the principal called you and tell you this morning you're deputy principal. At lunchtime, the principal don't like the food you eat. Next morning, you're not deputy principal.
So in other words, it's a position that is a deputy principal, and you cannot be replaced. It's an established position.
It's an established position.
Which the public service.
Which means you can be moved bilaterally. You can be moved from one school to the other as deputy principal. You can go from... What happens is that, for example, positions are created, so you can become deputy principal at another school if you're qualified and there's a position available. Okay?
But I myself can speak to myself. I was principal in Loda, I was principal in Campbell, I was principal in Maho. You can be moved around, as when you're a public officer.
Yes, but then you were principal.
Right.
The position of deputy principal creates avenues for upward mobility.
But there's another thing I want to say here. When you are moved into an area, let's say away from your home, and you move, it has implications for you, in terms of traveling, in terms of the cost. So sometimes I know. Wait, allow me. I'm not going astray.
On a wild fishing expedition.
I'm not a fishing expedition.
Okay.
I know. I used to be in the teachers' organization.
You're fishing for tuna on a pui-pui.
No, I'm not fishing for tuna. I used to be an executive member of the Dominica Teachers Association. So I'm saying, I know, Daryl, I'm saying that I welcome all the mobility. All these things are being discussed in terms of upward mobility. And
I wonder what the political leader...
That's not his business. The teachers union represents teachers. I'm not going to speak about Mr. in a time like this.
But calling
it's
them,
not his business.
But he calls them
what?
He calls
it's
them.
Not his business. Okay.
But he calls them.
Don't have no right in horseries.
It's true.
Okay?
Yes, but he calls them.
Look, the positions have been created. You have deputy principal, assistant principal, heads of department.
Yes.
Okay. Qualified teacher, senior qualified teacher. And look,
there's mobility.
The wage bill is already increased by $1 million and more.
But let's go further. I mean, come on. We've been hearing that there seem to have been some aspect of a cap. But we
exactly.
Let's take the discussion
to that.
Let's go further with the discussion. Go ahead, Daryl.
What happened to you now? Every morning is the same thing with you then.
Go ahead, Daryl.
No, man. Anyway, we come into the thing where people are talking about capping of salaries and that sort of thing. In one aspect of the public service alone, the teaching profession, salaries are going to be increased come September 2021 by an additional $1 million plus $1 million, and people talking about when the fiscal responsibility framework is put in place, that salaries are to be capped at 2%. And we should sit down here and accept fellas talking nonsense from uninformed and misleading political positions. Okay? Folks, the fiscal responsibility framework, what is the intent of this? You see, this act is intended to establish a framework in which government would manage its fiscal and financial affairs. It proposes some parameters within government which government would operate in order to ensure sustainability of government's finances. These are the fiscal rules which have been referred to in last year's budget address. Okay? In order to ensure sustainability of government's finances. One of the areas of cutting costs in government is wastage. People printing their children homework. Secretary printing their children homework on government printers. That is wastage. 64 pages colored. Paper, ink in use. That is what is wastage. Not salaries. Okay? People live in their office, living on lights and air condition. That is wastage. Okay? Destroying government equipment and furniture. Every week, every month, you have to buy new chair for secretary, new chair for this, new chair for that. People not taking care of things. Bouncing government transport. Driving government transport on lime like it's theirs. This is what is wastage. Okay? Not salaries. These are the things that have to be curbed. The better use of government equipment. The better use of government resources. Okay? That is what the Public Service Union had to encourage their member to get on board in putting things in place to limit wastage in the public service. You come there talking about salary and capping salary because you misleading. You know, Jyoti and the guy said that, look, the guy, he understood. And I believe you all, you know. He understood very well. It was just another ploy of his to help his party to destabilize the country.
So Mr. Just Wicked.
It was just another ploy of it. And I'm happy that the Ministry of Finance released this document, questions, explanations, and clarification of the fiscal responsibility framework. And I want to read part 2 of this for you. What is the background of this fiscal responsibility framework? Why? What are the circumstances and consideration that are brought about with the creation of this act? Let's take this call on the overseas line and then I will read that section for you. On the overseas line, good morning. Okay, not ready for us on the overseas line. What is the background of the fiscal responsibility framework? What are the circumstances and consideration that brought about the creation of this act? A. Over the years, Dominica's economy has been severely impacted by unforeseen events, weather events, global economic crises, etc. When these events occur, the economy contracts, and as a result, revenue falls. However, government still has to continue to operate, pay its debt, and in most cases, support the people whose livelihoods have been affected by the unforeseen event. How do we better prepare for future events like these to ensure the country continues to provide for itself? Therefore, there's a need to continue to build fiscal resilience as part of government's goal to build a resilient Dominica. A resilient Dominica requires a resilient fiscal system, one that is able to continuously withstand and respond to economic shocks without causing undue hardship to citizens. A system which guides the manner in which government will operate the country's expenditure, particularly recurrent expenditure, and maintains public debt at sustainable levels to ensure there is sufficient fiscal space and savings to access following economic shock events, example, natural disasters, and global economic shocks. Further, Dominica is a member of the ECCU, that is the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. To ensure the stability of the Union, member countries must be responsible in their fiscal policy. To this end, member countries have to commit to a Fiscal Responsibility Act based on fiscal rules to ensure the fiscal responsibility. Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines have already adopted fiscal responsibility frameworks. We have had discussions with them and have been guided by their experiences to date. Okay? So this is the background for the act and what are the circumstances and consideration that brought about the act. Okay? So when the Minister for Education announces, as Brain likes to say, these goodies, where salaries alone, in the teaching profession alone, the wage bill just for teachers, and when I say teachers, I include anybody under the level of assistant education officer, okay? Yeah. Teachers, people who operate schools and that sort of thing. When their salaries alone will be increased by $1 million, okay? By $1 million. We have to show that when people came and talk their hogwash, that this fiscal responsibility framework was capping salaries and that sort of thing, within days it's proven wrong, just in the teaching profession alone. And we're looking at the reclassification exercise currently ongoing in the public service. We're looking at the new positions that are going to be created in the nursing profession, in the medical field. Okay? And we should accept that guy is talking, this bill has to be withdrawn, it doing this, it doing that. Clearly, see your pafu, your meshasti. Wicked, them fellas, wicked, when they come and do this sort of things.
Daryl, the dirty tricks department of the United Workers' Party continues to work. They continue to be in the lab to formulate their mischief and their maneuverings, and they think that it will get past people. But no, people are seeing through them. It was very clear. Nobody will convince me that Thomas Later did not old people have a thing saying, common sense beat education. So you can, yes, whereas I understand that nobody will tell me that Mr. Thomas Later did not have a clear understanding of what the bill was meant to be. But Mr. Later, in his usual style, drumming up support for the Dominican Labour Party, for the United Workers' Party, seeking to create mayhem, seeking to create confusion, seeking to create discord, seeking to create imbalance, is at work in full-fledged. But like everything else, when the slips, they're waiting for him, my brother. Yeah, and we don't drop.
But you heard him saying that. I mean, this is so clear-cut. I mean, when one hears it, the paper is put out, and it's so clear. It's like ABC 1 to 3, and you telling me you're still hearing all that, and you still want legal advice.
He's seeking legal advice.
Yeah, you're not hearing him in the media.
To try to create. Yes, Larry.
On the overseas line. Good morning.
Hi guys. Darren is so right in everything you said there. Very, very right. I don't think most people can agree with that. On the other hand, I just want to tell Brain that if there's a position created and there's implications for you, why apply for it? People they have a choice. They don't need to apply. Yeah?
All right then.
And Jyoti just referred to old people have a thing saying it's not old people, it's wise people. People have wisdom and they know what they're saying.
All right, my friend. Thank you very much for that. On the local line, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, how are you all doing?
I am good. How are you?
Well, not too bad, not too bad. I have to say something. You
Tell
know, why deaf, okay? Even if well, people have their differences of whatever, why all of a sudden people want to send tribute to this and explain? You Matt is sick. This is a sick deaf. So we have to choose, who to send tribute at what time and why is now. My God in heaven. No. Things going too far now.
Yes, I agree with you, ma'am. Too far. Okay.
It's too far.
Mm-hmm.
Why is now these people want to send tributes as well? Okay, because they had their differences or whatever. Shut up. Don't say anything because of what differences, and everybody creating their differences in their own way. In their own way. So what is it? We will never let go in this country. Won't we? Lord, come to our assistance, or come to our aid, oh Lord. Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. These things have to stop. It is time to stop those nonsense. They're in depth, not supposed to have those magic and those kind of nonsense talking. Why is now they all of a sudden they want to send tribute? Because of what? And everybody creating their problem in their own way. Have a blessed day, gentlemen.
You have a good day, madam. You have a good day. But gentlemen, the fiscal responsibility framework is something I think that we have to continue speaking about, educating our people about this. I urge everyone to get a copy of the questions, explanation, and clarification of the fiscal responsibility framework released by the Ministry of Finance. I am hoping that it will be available on the government's website, and certainly through GIS we'll seek to make it available and widespread as possible.
And not only that, it should be published in the newspaper.
Yes.
I don't think just having it, in a paper. It should be published far and wide so that persons can have time to digest it. So that when persons come to alter their mind, they read and they can see for themselves that there's no attempt to cap, because that word cap frightens people a lot.
Yes, and you see this thing about capping by 2%. It clearly shows.
But why, Daryl? But why should a leader? Why should a leader find himself immersed in that sort of nonsense? You are head of the public service, and you're seeking to
ask your friend. He's not head of the public service. He's the head of the public service union. The head of the public service is the cabinet secretary. Okay.
Why should you try to indulge in that level of misgiving?
And Joe, when you talk about, just imagine the capital at 2% for 30 years. 13 years.
Why should you seek to
mislead
people in that way?
You can imagine how public servants were feeling.
But why should you?
And then the goal was to get people out. And you saw what was the objective, You saw what was the objective. The objective was to get the people out of work to come by parliament, Right. That was the objective.
That's all.
And then when that didn't work, Kai Pulkwazi, crackhead making noise.
But that cannot work.
I wonder what voice note was said by. What was said on the radio is one thing, but I wonder what voice note was sent that went in between and out between.
That other guy has a movie lang.
And some English does pass on the overseas line. Good morning.
Good morning, Darius.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Josie, Mr. Adam, good morning.
Good morning.
I am very happy to hear the news concerning the upward mobility for the secondary school teachers. But the position of deputy must not only be with the qualifications, but it must be matched with performance as well. So it is qualifications and performance.
Okay.
Who in the teaching feels the heat?
True. All right. Okay. Thank you very much for that. On the local line, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning, The Voice.
Si Zandoli te bon vian, parce que West a sou bay sat kay. I believe if Mr. Later had anything good up his upstairs, his brain had something good, he would not be indulged in the activities of the United Workers' Party. And what he do not understand is that Dominicans not walking around with wooden glasses. That is why it is 18 to 3. It is because Dominicans are not walking around with wooden glasses and breaking bamboo stick in their ears that they wouldn't hear. Comrades, for the past time, Dominicans recognize the whole fact that Later is an advocate. He advocates on behalf of the United Workers' Party, and he cannot hide from it anymore. There is no way Dominicans are going to be listening to a person who doesn't have their best interest at heart. And all he concerned about is protest this and protest that, protest this and protest that. Why he doesn't protest for honesty and integrity? But because Zandoli is not a good mate, it will continue to stay on Baisat Kai. Good morning to you, Mr. Later. Stay on the track that you are, because the track that we have is the right track. Good morning, this is The Voice.
Good morning to you. 9:11 is the morning time. We take a break for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Daddy, you dirty your clothes again, and mommy not there to help you though. Well, bam, bam, daddy dirty his clothes.
Easy breezy, busy bubble, laundry service on the hustle, washing, drying, folding service, washing comfort cause it's worth it. Kiddies own cribs and toys, come on daddy, bring the boys. Dirty things from wine and malts, come on man, it's not your fault. Busy Bubble.
Visit our new location on the Castle Comfort Highway next to the Sister Hotel. Busy Bubble Laundry, taking the busy out of your day.
Can you speak Creole or Cocoy fluently? Creole Heartbeat Magazine is recruiting local media talent, newsreaders, radio and television announcers, program hosts, talk show hosts, and MCs. Applicants must be 18 years and over and legal residents of Dominica. High school qualifications or higher, or formal training or work experience in the media field would be an asset. Submit applications to the Creole Heartbeat Magazine, Val Ferry Office, Roseau, or call 616-3457 for more information.
Calling all Flow prepaid customers. Flow's new value-loaded, always-on prepaid plans means great news for you. Get unlimited talk, up to 50% more data, and more international minutes to keep you always connected. Try our 7-day always-on plan today and get 8 gigabytes of data and 500 local and international minutes for only $30. Dial *129# now to activate a plan or visit discoverflow.co for more information. Terms and conditions apply.
We are launching the new 2022 Nissan Frontier. Join us at AutoTrade this Friday, the 9th of July at 10 a.m. Come test drive this vehicle and learn about different financing options. Remember, at AutoTrade, it's more than a vehicle, it's a relationship.
During and after a hurricane, you may need supplies to keep your family safe and healthy. Be sure to include items such as a first aid kit, flashlight, batteries, candles, at least 3 days of non-perishable foods, water for each member of your household, along with any necessary prescription medications. Make your list. Stock up on everything you might need early to be prepared. A message from Cash and Carry.
You looking for good eggs? I mean quality fresh eggs straight from the farm? Well, we have exactly what you're looking for, no matter the quantity. We've got the right amount. Visit us at Prince City downstairs Kyrie FM on Independence Street, for your fresh farm eggs or call telephone 448-7331, 448-7330 or 448-8752 and we'll get you your fresh farm eggs.
I'm not exaggerating, boiling with excitement.
(9:17) is the morning time. The fiscal framework was designed to guide fiscal policy to ensure the sustainability of government finances over the short, medium, and long term. What does that mean? It means that we are putting policies in place to ensure that expenditures are kept at sustainable levels to allow us sufficient room to pay our debt and build reserves, that is savings, and also put systems in place to reduce the debt levels, meaning that debt contracted would be at very concessionary terms, not at 14%. Okay?
But Daryl, you reading that there? Picture yourself in front of a Form 1 class in any school, or a grade 6 class in any school, and reading to them just what you have read. Picture the children listening to you attentively, listening to what you have said, and picture them, calculating in their minds, their little minds, comprehending in their little minds what you have just read. And picture them saying to you, sir, I have the answer to this, or sir, I understand. Brain. Just picture that for a minute. And how you telling me that Thomas Slater don't understand?
Comprehend, you know.
How you telling me that Thomas later don't understand that?
Comprehend, you said, you know.
Now, let's look at this. The Fiscal Responsibility Framework makes provision for the Minister of Finance to ensure that the fiscal and financial affairs of government are conducted in a transparent manner.
They don't like that word.
Why is it important to introduce this element of transparency in the management of government finances? Government is proposing these parameters. Most of these parameters were already being used by government. Hence the reason why government has been able to survive well thus far. What is different is that there have been adjustments to some of the targets. For example, the date by which the debt to GDP should get to 60%, and government has decided to formalize these rules, make them binding, make them known to the public, and allow for monitoring and reporting back its performance to the public.
Transparency at its best.
Exactly. The framework ensures that the public is well aware of what is happening. It also ensures that government remains in line with the parameters in order to meet its resilience goal. So if government decides that debt to GDP has to move to 60%, and the law is enacted, they cannot operate outside of those parameters.
Thank you very much.
And the public will know if at any time that these parameters are breached. Okay? Nobody will go to Trinidad in secret and take bonds to pay public officers. Okay? Nobody will take commercial loans to do anything within the government service, within the public sector. Debt will not be taken today and reported 20 years later. These are some of the parameters we'll be operating in.
And that makes provisions for good governance.
Nowhere it talks about capping salaries. Nowhere it talks about that. Another important consideration is to ensure that the debt is reduced and maintained at a prudent, sustainable level. How does the Act propose that we finalize? An Act talks about reducing debt. So it proposes a debt to GDP of 60% by 2035. In addition, it sets on a 2% on primary recurrent expenditure in order to help achieve this target. Quite apart from what is provided in the Act, government is undertaking a number of investments to diversify and transform the economy. Construction of the international airport, the digital transformation program, significant investments in agriculture, hotel construction, the geothermal project, among others. These are all investments that are expected to increase economic activity, create temporary and permanent jobs, and enable sustainable economic growth. On the local line, good morning.
Hello, good morning, guys.
Good morning, Honorable Douglas.
Very good program.
Good morning.
Right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I'm happy that you all are taking your time to explain the Act. But you could well understand why the United Workers' Party would be against such a move by the government. Because their history is clear, and Daryl just alluded to the crowning malfeasance in public office of United Workers' Party. That was the Trinidad bonds, $140 million at 14%. And the taxpayers of Dominica are still saddled with that debt. So you could understand why they will not want, or they will be against the Fiscal Responsibility Act. I wanted to point that out.
Yes.
I wanted to point out very, very clearly. So I think generally that you all are on the right track, and we understand why those who try to hoodwink the people of Dominica about the Act would want to do that. But Dominicans are brighter than that, as you all are displayed on your program this morning, and I'm very happy.
Thank you.
Very happy for that. Because, and we must also remember, to Daryl, that this government went to the IMF, you know.
Yeah.
You remember?
Yes, we went there.
Right, after the precipice that United Workers' Party had plunged the country over, this government had to come and repair the economic damage. And this government went to the IMF and repaid the IMF and got out of an IMF program successfully. And this government has always said, and the Prime Minister has always said, that we would continue to work with the IMF to ensure that we continue to be fiscally prudent. And that's what we have been doing. So all of what we're trying to legislate now in the Fiscal Responsibility Act really has been a practice of this government for years now.
Indeed.
You understand? So people must know that.
Prudent financial behavior.
No, this has been the practice.
Hello?
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm right there. I'm right there. Yeah. So I mean, one of the hallmarks of this government that history will record the government for is its prudence, its fiscal prudence, and that's why this government has been well respected by all of the international organizations that we deal with. You know, I mean, the European Union,
the World
IMF, the World Bank, the CDB, all of those financial institutions have given this government a high rating. And had it not been for Hurricane Maria, the debt to GDP ratio would have been under 70%. Right? It is Maria. Remember the Prime Minister said, hello?
Yes, we're there.
Remember the Prime Minister was saving monies, you know, and we had about what? The Prime Minister said, I think, about $250 million in an account before Maria, and that is why our recovery after Maria was so swift and so efficient, because we had our own money that we could spend to start the first set of relief that got to Dominica was bought by the government of Dominica, you know, and distributed to the people. The cleanup campaign that started when Roseau was in a mess after the hurricane was done with our own savings. You understand? That is what fiscal prudence is all about. And that has always been a hallmark of the Roosevelt-Skerrit administration.
Yes.
And we're not like the United Workers' Party. United Workers' Party, remember, sold Domlec. They sold the people's utility for 30% of what it was worth. And they went to the House with legislation to legislate a 15% compulsory increase in profits for Domlec.
Yes.
Don't forget that that is the record. Okay, that is the legacy of United Workers' Party. So they will be against any piece of legislation that would seek to keep governments, future governments, in a disciplined posture as far as government finances are concerned. That is why they're against it. And that's why your partner there of the political party, how you call it, that's why
the political leader of the DPSU.
Thank you very much. Yes, that is why they would be against it. Okay? But this government, we will continue, will not be done with. We know we're doing what is right and what is in the interest of the people of Dominica. And more importantly, the people themselves know and understand that the Dominican Labour Party is doing what is in the best interest of this country. We have a record to show, and our reputation precedes that as far as that is concerned. We are well respected, throughout the region by our peers, and we'll continue to stay focused and do what is in the best interest of the people, notwithstanding the detractors and the naysayers.
Indeed. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes. Good. Let me read this part for you. And it focuses on these allegations that this bill would have been bringing. The issue of contention over the past week surrounded the clause that read, real primary recurrent expenditure shall not exceed 2% per annum in years when real GDP growth equals or exceeds 2%. First of all, let me tell you what is recurrent expenditure. These are the operating expenses of government, the goods and services that government procures to run the government and the country. They are called recurrent, coming from the word to recur, meaning these expenses are undertaken repeatedly. Every financial year, these things have to be done. For example, government has to buy supplies, paper, toilet paper. Government has to pay electricity, telephone, cleaning supplies, wages, utilities, and rent. This is recurrent expenditure. Was the intention of the bill to limit or restrict public officers from negotiating salary increase upwards of 2% in the period 2023 to 2025? The simple answer is no. But let me go into some detail. This was a misrepresentation of the proposal in the bill. The bill states, the minister shall take appropriate measures to ensure that the rate of growth of real recurrent expenditure does not exceed 2% per year in years when GDP growth equals or exceeds 2%, but will not be more than 1% when GDP growth is less than 2%. The 2% only applies when the debt to GDP is above 60%. This provision does not speak to the salaries of public officers. It speaks to government's total recurrent expenditure, and therefore it does not limit public officers to 2% salary increases.
So Mr. Lit, I don't understand that.
What it does is to put government in a position to manage its recurrent expenditure at sustainable levels. For example, data shows that GDP declined 11% in 2020. Decline in GDP meant decline in recurrent revenue. Therefore, government reduced its recurrent expenditure for 2020-2021 by upwards of 15% up to May 2021. Final numbers will be confirmed in time for the budget address. However, government did not cut public officers' salaries by 15%. Did they? You heard that now? Did you hear any cut in government salary? Instead, government gave public officers a 1.25% salary increase, although the GDP declined by 11%. However, overall expenditure was reduced by 15%. Government may increase salaries by more than 5% and not see a 2% increase in recurrent expenditure. Further, the bill makes provision for total recurrent expenditure to increase by 3% to accommodate salary adjustments as a result of the reclassification exercise. And that includes the announcement that was made by the Minister for Education, where several positions are being created within the teaching persons.
And we expect the announcement, Daryl, to be made soon about the hospital.
Joti, see later pafu imeshaste.
But the man is not mad. The man is not mad. You know he's not mad. So the latter, he is in fact wicked.
Wicked alone?
Yeah, the man is mischievous, man. To be, that thing is so clear. ABC, any child, as you said, could comprehend what is happening. And for you to be making this order, maybe it has to be circulated to Mr. Layton as well, so he could get, proper schooling on the matter. Bring him into a classroom and educate him on that, because that's too simple. For you to be telling me that is so simple, Daryl, as you explain it for everybody to understand. Very simple.
Give Daryl a grade 6 class and you tell him to read just what he read. And the kids in the class will be all excited. Sir. and they will have their tablets out and whatever.
Of
And you
course.
just see them in motion in the classroom, and I can picture them, and they're all excited because Sir read something for them, and they understand that, and they want
So
to explain.
simple, explain.
And they want to explain that to Sir, man.
Yes.
You come and tell
Is there
me,
more,
really,
sir?
you
Is
come-
there more? Is there more?
You want to come and tell me spirituality
Is
goes
there
on.
more? Let's give them more. You want more?
Of course.
Let's
I mean,
give
the
them more.
exercise is
Let's
so
give
simple.
them more. Okay? Another clause seeks to empower the minister to take appropriate measures to ensure that the ratio of expenditure on the wage bill does not exceed 11.25% of GDP. What does that mean? Listen, class, take all your notebook and your notepads out. This is the clause which speaks to wages. This one is pegged to GDP. This is an amount that government has been using as a guide since 2003. Later back on it, sir. Huh?
Since 2003.
What it does is to ensure that government does not utilize more than it can afford to pay salaries and then cannot afford to pay for its other recurrent expenditure. For example, utilities, supplies, rent, insurance, etc. Over the years, and another recurrent expenditure, social security. It is part of salaries. Social security, insurance. Your salary paid, your social security check may be reaching before your salary reach the bank. Not some fellas that wasn't paying social security and they were still going social security and take money. Okay? They were still going to this, so they're not paying. They go in there, they're taking money to do government business.
And they're not paying back.
And they were not paying back. Okay?
Debt.
Over the years, government has continued to remain within this target. Government has never surpassed it. Hence the reason government does not believe that there's a need to adjust this parameter. Over the past 9 years, the wage bill has increased by 15%. However, government has remained at 9.8 to 9.9 of GDP. But for the years when we had major economic shocks and decline in GDP, for example, after Hurricane Maria and with the COVID-19 pandemic, in both instances, the wage bill went above 10%, but less than 11% of GDP. After Maria, fellas didn't get double bubble. Huh?
It was almost like
Man got paid. When man used to blame computer breakdown for not paying salaries. Computer quasi live port tout computer in the treasury. Man still get paid on time, ahead of time,
At the end of September.
At the end of September. The bill makes provision for adjustments to be made for inflation. It also makes provision for suspension of all the rules for 1 year, with a possibility of extending the suspension to a second year when the country experiences economic shocks. I want to read that again. The bill makes provision for the suspension of all the rules for 1 year, with a possibility of extending the suspension to a second year when the country experiences economic shock. Folks, I mean, this is so simple to show that, look, later needs to come and say, look, I didn't read the bill. I apologize. Brian called me and tell me about that. I run and talk. But now that I read, now that I understand, things have been explained to me. Go ahead with the bill. We just have to use our skills to negotiate for our public officers, or members of the union. That's what Later should come and do. He come in and talk about legal advice and all. That's where anybody can go and seek legal advice,
Shame he shame.
Ay.
Shame he shame. Want to pacify it, no one talk about he's seeking legal advice.
Well, let him anyway. The Act makes provision for a fiscal responsibility committee. Who would chair this committee? And what would be the functions of such a committee? And folks, listen to this. This is very important. The bill provides for the minister to appoint a 3 to 5 member committee after receiving the approval of cabinet. The committee is expected to assess and monitor government's compliance with the framework. The committee is also expected to prepare annual reports of its findings and provide advice to the government on measures to ensure compliance. A copy of the report is to be laid in the House of Assembly by the Minister for Finance. The committee is expected to comprise individuals from the public and private sector and civil society with qualifications and experience in law, economics, accounting, finance, public service administration, or related fields. As government has made clear throughout the discussion, the main objective of the Fiscal Responsibility Act is to keep government expenditure in check, to keep public spending at a manageable level, and to remain within our debt threshold, and to better provide for Dominican citizens. Even with the adjustments that government will make to more responsibly manage public finances, increases in public officers' salaries are accounted for and expected. For example, the reclassification of the public service is ongoing. CARICAD is assisting to assess the organizational structure of various ministries and undertake an evaluation of salaries and compensation for public officers. When this is completed and recommendations are implemented, we will see increases in the salaries of public officers. And you heard from the Minister for Education. Government has completed a review of positions within the teaching service. And I'll play for you again the Minister of Education, which will result in the creation of new positions and an overall $1 million increase in the wage bill annually. It's not for this year alone. It will be annually. The Hospital Authority Act was recently passed in Parliament for the creation of a new administrative and governance structure to manage and oversee the affairs of all hospitals on island. It brings with it a new salary structure for hospital employees. The salaries of public officers have therefore never been under threat. Never have the salaries of public officers been under threat, and to come out and to accuse government of that was a deliberate attempt to destabilize the country. And you heard his Banbobo call and say, next time, don't involve them in all your thing. When they call all you to come out, all you doesn't come out. This, that, let them fight among themselves and let government continue doing its work in developing the country. On the overseas line, good morning.
Good morning, Daryl again.
Good morning.
You know, after they're reading that, and you talk about computer breakdown, you know, we civil servants used to believe computer used to break down. Margaret Edison James, on pour payer pour ça. Pulling civil servants and saying about computer breakdown. By the time it's paid, they couldn't pay civil servants. Alas, we were innocent. For me, innocent used to believe that. Alas, thank you. Anyway,
thank
bye-bye.
you. You're welcome. News just coming out of Haiti is that the First Lady has succumbed to her injuries that she sustained during the assassination of her husband. The First Lady both president and wife, have died, assassinated in Haiti. Really a sad day. Really, really a sad day. And I hope that they can bounce back very quickly. Very, very sad day indeed in Haiti. Let me play for you again the Minister for Education. And yes, let me play that for you again. The Minister for Education, Honorable Octavia Alfred, on the creation of new positions within the teaching service.
Today, July 6, 2021, the Cabinet of Ministers approved a new structure for the teaching service within government secondary schools. The 2019-2020 Budget of Recovery, Modernization and Transformation proposed a new structure for the teaching service and mandated the Ministry of Education to come up with more progressive structures that would address the numerous complaints and support the professionalism, output, security, career development, and upward mobility of these services. The current school-level organization structure lacks a clear career path and provides limited opportunities for middle management. It is within this context that the restructuring of school-level supervision was proposed. The structure is premised on the need to maximize the use of existing human resource while providing an acceptable structure for staff mobility. Most of the new positions within the school system at the middle and senior management levels are required to strengthen school leadership and accountability and to foster efficiency within the education system. The proposed organizational structure includes new and upgraded positions for secondary schools and will include the following categories as articulated by the Honorable Prime Minister: Principal, Deputy Principal, Assistant Principal, Heads of Department, Senior Graduate Teacher, Senior Qualified Teacher, School Counselor. This structure emphasizes the importance of the functions of officers at various levels, as well as maximizing the skills of staff in areas where they can perform best. In addition to promoting professional growth, the structure provides opportunities for teachers to advance in responsibility and compensation, while also allowing them to make significant contributions within the school system without having to give up teaching functions. These additional responsibilities include areas of curriculum development, supervision, monitoring, mentoring new teachers within their school and staff training, student discipline, or serving as lead teachers in selected subject areas. Cabinet has therefore approved the following: the upgrade of 7 positions of principals of secondary schools, the creation of the following new positions for government secondary schools: 15 deputy principals, 7 assistant principals, 87 heads of department, 28 senior graduate teachers, 70 senior qualified teachers, and 16 school counselors. As a result of the creation of these new positions, Cabinet has also approved an increase in the budgetary allocation for salaries to the Ministry of Education in the amount of $1,296,873.84 annually. In keeping with the new collective bargaining agreement between the Dominica Association of Teachers and the Government of Dominica, this new structure will be implemented with effect from September 1, 2021. These new positions will be filled from the existing pool of teachers within the teaching service. In addition to providing upward mobility for over 200 teachers, the promotion of teachers will create vacancies at the graduate and qualified teachers level to allow for permanent employment of teachers who are currently temporarily employed or on program requirements. This decision reflects this government commitment to provide a better deal to our teachers and create a public service that promotes professional growth and is part of the ongoing comprehensive organizational review and reclassification of the public service of Dominica. Additionally, we have maintained our commitment to the permanent employment within the teaching service at all levels. In the last few weeks, the Public Service Commission has approved the appointment of 12 principals, and within the last year, the Commission has approved the permanent appointment of 60 teachers. Let me take this opportunity to thank all our dedicated teachers and principals throughout the school system, and I urge you to continue to promote excellence and give your best at all times. This government understands your challenges, and we continue to work in your best interest. God bless you. Jesus loves you, and I love you too. Thank you.
The Minister for Education there, Honorable Octavia Alfred, talking about the creation of new positions within the teaching service, within the public service in general. And of course, that will see just for teachers alone an increase of over $1 million, in which will, I hope what I read for you this morning has been able to assist you in understanding the fiscal responsibility framework. And maybe we can go further and say, when things like that are being brought before Parliament, maybe we need to come here and educate people beforehand, as Clarence said yesterday.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to do
Right,
that, and we'll look.
To use a big elucidate.
Yes.
To clarify for people.
Beforehand, before those magi go and say
so it is
all
more
kind
palatable,
of yes,
meaning
okay,
it's easy to understand.
Yes, you know, so
because as you brought it out as a school teacher, you know, although you have not been in the profession, but you laid it out quite clearly, and as Jyoti said, it was easy to comprehend, understand what was being read to us, and we can now understand and do the analysis.
And I have a word for later and them fellas. Let me tell you a little something. You see this nonsense you're all trying there. You know, you all have to understand that people have computers, people have laptops, people have phones, people have all sorts of things. And, you know, although people may not be reading more, but yet still, you know, people have a better understanding of things, you know, as they're supposed to be. Right. And what all you see happening in the past wouldn't happen again.
Well, it's called fiscal discipline. In other words, you want to make sure that the government expenditure is maintained at a certain level. Fiscal discipline. Very simple, put, so that people can understand.
Lies can never, ever be better than the
But it is not an attempt to prevent negotiations to take place in terms of salary.
I think that was made abundantly clear.
That was made abundantly clear, and you could see it actually transpiring right away that by September, we in July, in the next month and a half or so, we'll see a new structure of salaries for the teachers.
This thing has been put, if they give exact figures by how much the salaries will increase, it means the structure is in place. It's just to be implemented. Cabinet has approved it.
Yes.
Cabinet has approved it.
Right.
And it's
So
now
when teachers walk into
talking the mic partner.
When teachers walk
for the new school year,
school,
to
right?
be deputy principal.
You will have deputy principal.
And you know,
will have assistant
you
principal.
know what that calls for again at the schools? There must be some restructuring of the physical plant, because you have to take the deputy principal has to have their own office because they'll be given certain responsibilities.
Right.
The heads of departments, the what they call
senior graduate teacher,
senior graduate teachers, and that sort of. So this,
but look there, Bontawi.
We can bring you back for 2 years.
Let me tell you something. When I see the kind of bon temps those teachers have now, in my time as a teacher, we didn't have all these positions, you know.
And you know, teachers used to walk into school with a little bit of vary and a little
bit. Well, it's now. High heel kefe ding dang. High heel and man going to go work in jacket.
When you're deputy principal, you're highly respected. So you have to walk with a certain gait, you know, because there's money behind you, money behind. Not name, you know. When I was called deputy principal in Girodale, not even an ice copy was added onto my salary. I just had the name deputy. When the principal is not there running,
you running things, so you flex your muscles.
All I could do was flex my elbows, you know. But in terms of what I would see in my accounts, according to Sogo,
But
was
in the
nothing
idea?
on that pan, sir. Name without power. Right now, you have financial power. So when you speak
You have
of
financial power, you
Yeah.
have occupational power, because the deputy principal position will not be a thing if you and the principal
Fall out.
Tomorrow morning you have to find your backside back in the
And another
staff room
and another person
somebody
come-
else
come
inside
up.
there.
So when you're deputy principal, your position is with the Public Service Commission.
Best one, pa.
You have your instrument. Look, my instrument,
Me.
partner. My instrument. Hartley Adams has now been appointed deputy principal.
When I was
of
at
school.
the grammar school, and I was told a certain lady used to be deputy principal. I always ask the question, but how come she's no longer deputy principal? What transpired is now I understand.
Right.
You could the principal kid could just wake up in the morning, Jyoti,
you're deputy
out, brain, take the office,
deputy,
and you're deputy principal.
But now you have your instrument.
And I'm sure there are some. And we're talking about deputy principal. You heard the creation of the position of assistant principal?
Yes.
Qualified teacher. Senior
Counselor.
qualified teacher.
And counselors.
Counselor.
You see the new position of principals that have been created?
Bye.
My goodness
it's
me.
good to be in it.
And I remember
I wonder, we must probably
but the
tomorrow
minister
morning.
the minister himself must be saying, "Gade bon temps, qui en place là.
Lemote principal.
Lemote principal.
Last year there, or year before.
But then it took bon temps ça, eh?
I would like to hear from people like Sonia Williams, and probably we can talk to her tomorrow morning. Okay, we might have to call her up tomorrow morning to talk about this. But I mean, goodness gracious, man.
That is more than bread and butter, man. The slices of ham has been added.
Well,
or whatever you want.
Christmas
your preference
in
of
July.
Christmas in July.
boy.
And maybe by September, when this new thing is putting the principals, when they're coming, and the deputy principal, they'll be cock-a-hooks, they'll be looking good, if you're
Well,
man and you're
let's see
deputy
let's see what goes on. Nurses, their turn is coming. The first step has been seen with the passage of the Hospital Authorities Bill.
Yes.
Okay. So teachers, I mean, goodness gracious. South Leako.
And that man, Martin, our good friend, Thomas Leighton, send the blood pressure of my poor colleagues. So many
But
points
you have
up,
not
man.
heard from you see, that's the thing, Teachers Union doesn't get involved in those row there, See, teachers, they lead by example. Okay? So tomorrow, let's try to speak with Miss Williams, and then probably our good partner there, Mr. Kenneth Samuel, yes. Maybe we can speak to him, and even probably
Mr. Pierre-Louis,
We'll probably
never had that bon temps.
We'll probably reserve about 15 to 20
Let me
minutes.
call him now.
So let us call them, let us speak to them, put them on notice. Maybe that's even one of them now. On the local line, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. T.
No, that's Mr. Parker. Yes, good morning, sir.
And how are you, sir?
I'm good, sir.
Okay, I have a very good lady friend. She was a bus driver from Kingsville, but not sweetness. I don't know what is the meaning of sweetness. She's about other kind of sweetness. But she passed, so I would like to wish her family sympathy greetings. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, Mr. Parker. Good morning to you. 8:58.
Well, boy, it
is
has
the
been
morning.
it has been a good week so far in terms of what we're hearing, in terms of the projects going on, Jyoti, in terms of the new things happening.
Did we touch on the Bagatelle, on the...
Yes, the
water
Bagatelle water supply was
Yes.
commissioned yesterday. It's a project on the BNTF 8. It was a BNTF 9, I believe. And it was a major project. Over $1 million being spent there. I myself had the opportunity to go all the way up to the source of this water supply some time ago. And you have to commend the work that
The
goes
engineers.
in to bring in water to the home. While Dominica is abundant with water, to take this thing from the source, the natural source,
Can be
and
challenging.
pipe it down to people,
challenging.
you have to commend for the way, because sometimes it costs quite a bit more to get there, to create the avenue to get to the source than even the entire project. Entire project. And getting the source is very important, because water, it has to be proper.
gravitational board.
Yeah, okay.
And
Not only the engineering, but also the safety.
The safety of
The
the water.
safety has to deal with that. So it's not a thing there. You can just go and put a thing in the mouth of the Roseau River and say, "Look, Tutmun Poglu." No. It's nothing like that. You
So
know.
it's quite expensive to bring water down to the public.
Yeah.
It's very challenging.
You see,
it's
this
quite expensive.
country, we have to realize that in this country, what you might be able to do in Barbados and Antigua, Barbados can just decide tomorrow, look, clear over there in the pasture over there, let's build a stadium.
Right, that's
Because no grading, nothing. Just go and build a stadium.
And right now, Joe Thomas at the hospital, there's a new piece of equipment that can diagnose your diabetes very easily.
Yes,
for
I heard
your eye.
Retinopathy.
You hear that big
Diabetic
word?
retinopathy. Yeah.
Wow.
I hope I'm stressing on the right.
Why, goodness me, the new thing there.
Retinopathy.
A new thing there now, Joe
So,
Thomas.
you
So we're
guys
upgrading, man.
Take advantage of this thing. I hope you guys go and get your prostates checked.
Yes.
At regular. I don't have age for that yet.
Right. But that's a
And I'm hoping.
Jyoti, I would suggest that we go see the doctor
we go
about
see the
our
doctor.
prostrates.
Oh, yeah.
Larry, thank you.
Leave the inside joke right. It is 10 o'clock. We will be back. Jyoti, I'm closing your mic. Don't worry, tomorrow we'll put up the picture for you. Okay, my buddy? We will be back tomorrow with another head. Until then, do have a good morning.